Chapter 11 deals with evaluation and policy analysis. Some of the topics covered: a history of evaluation research, evaluation basics, questions for evaluation research, design decisions, and quasi-experimental design in evaluation research. Non-experimental designs, qualitative and quantitative methods, policy research, basic science or applied research, and ethics and evaluation. The nice thing about this chapter, as you'll soon find out if you already haven't read it, is that it builds on everything that we've covered already and just puts it into a different perspective or focus on the type of research purposes. So we're still using the same methods we've been studying. We're still concerned with the sampling procedures. We're still concerned with ethics. We're still concerned with research design. We're still concerned with data collection and analysis and everything else that we've discussed up to this particular point. So evaluation research really is trying to find out if we're doing what we're supposed to be doing, and if what we're doing is working, and if it's cost effective, and how does it compare to other programs or interventions. So a lot of times you're looking at the whole scenario of inputs, program processes, and outputs and outcomes. And also, we of course need to consider the stakeholders, those people or groups who have some concern or relationship with the intervention or program that we are evaluating. Some of the questions that might be asked for evaluation research are, is the program needed, which is the evaluation of need or needs assessment? Can the program be evaluated? Evaluability assessment. How does the program operate? A process evaluation. What is the program's impact? Impact evaluation. And how efficient is the program? Efficiency analysis. To kind of go into a little more detail on those, for example, needs assessment looks at if the needs of a particular group might be met with that particular program. Or do we need to design or develop a modified or a new program? So how badly is the program needed? So we kind of focus on that, and of course one of the things about needs is that it's a difficult term to define, and then distributions of goods and services falls into the needs category, and so everyone will have different definitions on what is a need and how that would manifest itself. Valuability assessment looks more on if the program can be evaluated with the time and resources that are available to the researchers. And also we have to look at some of those barriers that come into play here. For example, the stakeholders would like a positive report, and program staff may be distrustful and have some conflicts with evaluators, and there may be very vague goals and objectives, and there may be a little understanding of what the program is really trying to accomplish. So it might just be some general, we're trying to help people feel better, we're trying to reduce criminal activity, and so this may focus on clarifying goals and how the program operates. A process evaluation is also referred to as program monitoring, and process evaluation determines if the program is working according as it was intended to work. So is it doing what it's supposed to be doing? The evaluation of impact or outcomes focuses on determining whether a treatment or service had an effect. Did it have the intended consequences that the program developers planned? And again, you can see we're using the same experimental, quasi-experimental designs, qualitative or quantitative or combination. in all of these types of evaluations. And efficiency evaluation focuses on program effects to costs. And so you kind of get that cost benefit scenario there. So then your authors do a wonderful job of going over design decisions, black box evaluation, theory-driven evaluation, stakeholder approaches, social science approaches, advantages and disadvantages, simple or complex outcomes, and then they get into the different designs and go into some detail on that. And they also then focus another section on evidence-based policy. And here we begin to connect the evaluation research and basic research to making policy. And a lot of times we see that we run into some serious conflicts when we're trying to make policy. We try to figure out what works and what does not work, and then we try to bring that into the policy arena. And one of the things that can occur here, of course, is the disconnect between a variety of stakeholders and conflicts between stakeholders, maybe within stakeholder groups, and also with the public as well. A case in point would be you can read the research on the effectiveness of sex offender registration, and then you can develop some policies based on that research. Convincing politicians or the public to follow what those might be based on the research may run into a lot of conflicts and problems depending how the research is presented. And likewise, I'd mention that there are some programs that are running today that have been evaluated and shown not to work, but they're still being used, even some have a negative effect, a negative outcome, but they're still being funded and still being used in different systems. And this has led to a big political headache for many. So there may be programs that are actually funded because they make people feel good or nice, or they're favors for other groups or whatever. And it frustrates me, of course, because I'll just say, follow the research. What was that movie, Show Me the Money? I say, show me the research. And if it shows negative effects or not any significant changes or beneficial changes, then I'm saying we need to do something different. Or we need to reconsider whether or not we need to modify this program in a way where we might get some benefits. So ethical issues come into play as well with clients, with the general public, with sponsors, with sharing the information, with deciding who owns the information. I'll give you an example. In evaluating treatment, a lot of times we ask questions such as, what was the treatment population? How was the sample obtained? How large was the sample? What was the extent of the particular crimes of interest in the case of studying crime reduction programs? How was the crime defined? How did the program decide to accept certain individuals who engaged in a particular crime? Were there control and comparison groups? And of course, how did the program handle dropouts within the evaluations? Were the measures clearly presented? Were they reliable and valid? Were multiple measures used? Were appropriate statistics used? And so we can go on in looking at how the whole evaluation process materializes and some of the problems that we face. But this, of course, is very similar to what we find in doing basic research in terms of design and implementation of the research, analysis, reporting. So we want to make sure we have very high quality research being conducted. But then you're dealing with a finding which may be implemented or discussed differently for the applied research than in basic research, which will end up in conference presentations and research articles. I'm not sure a lot of the general public or politicians or even policymakers working in the public sector spend a lot of time reading uh, basic research journals or even applied research journals for that matter. It I'm trying to remember if in my 30 years of researching, if anyone is actually, any politician or policymaker has actually contacted me to get my views of policies and what the research says about it. Now that I think about it, several have. Most of those have been controversial. And interestingly enough, when I told the group what the research says, they didn't want me anymore because it didn't support their particular their particular narrative. And so that's kind of interesting as well. It's a whole nother game in that sense. I'll wrap up by telling a little story here, but I'll make it a short story. Well, again, short story is very relative, right? What's a short story for me may be a long, drawn-out tale for others, but I'll try to be quick about it. Okay, I evaluated a parent support group for parents who had children that had been sexually abused. And we used some standardized measures, pre-test and post-test. We only had one group, so the treatment group. We did not have any comparison groups because I worked hard not to have a waiting list, and we didn't know what or who we could compare that to. But anyway, we used several psychological measures, the team of researchers that we put together, and we measured children's dysfunctional behaviors before and after the 16-week group, parenting stress levels, parent education levels, parental relationship with children. And we basically found there was not really major statistically significant changes. It kind of appeared that the program didn't really do anything for the parents in using that. We also had some qualitative material on post-test. We asked questions to the participants, such as what did you like about the group, what did you dislike about the group, what would have you done differently, what would you have liked to see, what could be more beneficial, did it work, did it not work, things like that. What we found out, interestingly enough, that saved us in many ways was that we had a significant number of respondents say the program was too short. The program was too short. It should have been longer. Just when we were starting to get some benefits, you guys ended it. So we knew we needed to make our program longer or open-ended. So we learned an important lesson. If we didn't ask the respondents on their post-survey about what they liked and disliked, what they changed, we would have never known and just thought it didn't work. So just a brief example, and this wraps up this video. Thank you.